welcome to the Fishing Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things fishing, gear, tactics, venues, and of course, the fish we catch. I'm Liam Hall.
And I'm Matt Jones. Well, another Stop, you smirked.
Yeah, because I'm a happy guy.
I know you are.
You know,
Right.
I'm editing this one and all of this stays in, right? Yeah.
Right.
That, you know.
That's why I did it, because I know it would stay in. Right. Oh, God. Why does this happen to your episodes?
Yeah, every meme is just going to appear on the screen.
Have I got a spider in my head? Right, okay. Right. Episode 5.
Episode 5, yeah.
Welcome back to another episode.
Yeah, thank you for joining us at the... You know, sometimes people say, like, thank you for joining us at the round table. We need one, I think. Maybe some of the comments can let us know. Thank you for joining us at the...
On the bank side.
On the bank side, yeah. Well, we're not on the bank side, are we, though?
We'll put just a lake scene and be like, we are on the bank side.
Do you know when some podcasts do live recordings because they've got such great followings? Do you reckon we're doing a live record, we're just on the bank side?
We're doing a live record, though, because you know what I'll do at some point? I'll turn this entire wall to LED and we'll just have a live feed from the bank side, just permanently. So we can either be here or there.
Well, I think we'd always be there, wouldn't we?
Well, yeah.
Always on the bank side.
Live.
The thing is, it's a lot of... I thought about this, if we wanted to do like an episode on the bank side, the difficulty... Well, to be fair, there's ways around it. We could have like microphone lapel mics and stuff like that. It wouldn't be quite the same, but we could definitely do an on the bank side. Audio
quality would take a bit of a hit, but actually you can still do it.
We could do it on the bank side.
YouTube would be perfect for, but it's just Spotify and audio platforms might be a bit tough.
As good for.
Yeah. Okay, right. Straight back in.
Here we are. So, episode 5. And as always, I'm going to kick off because I want to know how you are. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's been a good week so far.
Mm-hmm.
Busy as always, never stops. I swear I say that every week.
Yeah,
it's
stop
always
identifying.
It's always busy.
I've got
all
to this
the
point
time
where I used to say, when people say like at work and stuff, like, how are you? And I'm like, busy. And it's like, how do you identify with like how busy you are? And like my dad would like, I think he said it to me once where he would just be like, I didn't ask if you're busy or not. I said, how are you? And I was like, yeah, good point. But now I've gone so far to the point of like trying to move away from that. I've got to the sort of a point where I always tell that same story. I'm like, I always say I'm busy, but I'm not when I am, but I've tried not to say that.
No, I am always busy, but I just need to stop saying I'm busy because there's more to say.
But then it becomes like a thing, especially in the corporate. So me and Matt, if you don't know, we both live in the corporate world, inside of our work life, and it just becomes like a who's got the biggest sort of busy schedule. Yeah, who's got the biggest busy schedule?
My schedule's busier than yours.
My schedule's busier than yours. And it just becomes a bit like that, and I don't like that either.
No,
so
I don't like that either. So I'm going to mix it up. I'm sweet today, mate.
Oh, you're good.
I'm good.
Nice.
I'm really good.
I've been looking forward to doing this as well. So
yeah, it's always nice to spend an evening doing this.
Yeah.
We usually do other activities on a Wednesday. Sometimes we do a podcast on a Friday, but now we're doing some podcasts on a Wednesday.
Yeah, we're not rock climbing tonight, are we? Instead, so this is a nice alternative. So.
Yep. So yeah. Other than that, how are you?
Very good, very good. Day's been alright. Usual sort of business on a midweek sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's work, in the gym, that sort of standard stuff. Nothing sort of crazy. Managed to get to the tackle shop. I bought a new tub. Nothing crazy, no massive purchases. Bought a new tub. It sounds like I go to the tackle shop all the time, but I wasn't at the tackle shop today. This was recently. I managed to get I just got a new tub, one of the tracker tubs, and it's just because I needed some new bait. I've got some new what did I get? I got some new pellets, which I don't normally fish with, and then just some new cell boilies.
Okay, nice.
Picked up some new bait, some new hook baits, and what else did I get? Some backleads, because I recently have been. I don't know if I got into a habit, but I've dropped a couple in the lake, so I've got some new backleads, but nothing crazy, just like a small sort of few purchases and stuff. So
nice. I've had quite a large purchase recently.
A big one.
Quite a big one.
Nice. Yep. I'm excited.
Full set of new reels.
That's exciting.
It's a big one, and I've gone bold as well, because normally
You went for the gold ones. I thought of you yesterday because I think Neil Spooner uses the gold.
Does he?
He's got gold reels, I think. And I thought, I wonder if Matt went for them. And they are quite
they're quite in your face.
Larry, yeah.
Yeah. So my bankside swag is taking it up a notch. So yeah, like I've had Witchwood reels for a long time.
Well, forever, right?
They were like my first big pit reels that I brought, but they're like 50, 60 quid. And like I didn't want to spend loads at the time, so 150 quid on 3 reels was like a chunk of money at the time. But now that like we're really pushing the boundaries now of, you know, kind of distance fishing, hard lake fishing, big carp fishing, like I'm now like, now's the time. And also I've had them so long as well. And obviously they take a bit of a hit being out in the elements that I think all the bearings and the gears in them are starting to wear down. So when like the drag goes, it really makes a not a clicking sound, it's more of a grinding sound. So yeah, there's a bit of that, and they are quite laborious to kind of reel and stuff. So yeah, I've gone for the Daiwa emblems.
I'm very familiar with those.
Yeah, and it is the gold ones. So they've got a nice little quick flip handle on them. So yeah, I'm very excited. I mean,
nice.
They turn up tomorrow.
Well, speaking from experience, I also have the Daiwa emblem range, and they're brilliant. They're lovely, really nice reels. It was a nice jump for me as well, and it just makes casting, reeling, and everything just so much nicer and so much smoother. So I'm excited.
I'm excited to
give
a review of them.
Go. Yeah, we'll do a review. That's something I'd like from you actually. Just a little short review. Yeah, a little review we can put out.
What are you thinking? Shorts, or you want an extended one? What do you want?
We could do a little shorts or on the bank side.
So you want a 60-second review?
Yeah.
Done.
Nice.
Like
it. Okay, cool. Good. But apart from that, all doing well. Sounds like we're both doing well. Couple of new purchases. That's the one thing that fishing will continue to be, and that is expensive.
Correct. So, firstly, before we get into the topic, how's your fishing been?
Fishing's been good, actually. Well, it's been okay. I've managed to get out a few times recently. We've been to our club water a few times. But we've gone with a slightly different approach. We've both been a bit busy, but we didn't want to just kind of give in to not going fishing. So we've been getting out on like a Sunday, just in the morning till late afternoon, evening, which has been I've actually really enjoyed it because we've not necessarily had the time to go out and do a 24 or 48. Well, I haven't, at least so often. But what we have then been able to do is on a Sunday, get up early and go just like a day. I think I have maybe been guilty, and some anglers are guilty of getting so into that, there's not much, because we have so much gear, and you sort of get to a point where, it's a lot of gear to move around. For the sake of a day, can sometimes feel like quite a lot to do.
Yeah.
But bit of a stripped back session approach, not taking as much stuff, and just getting out and doing a day. It's been quite nice, and it's meant that we've been able to get out and go fishing and chill out, be on the bankside. So we've been doing that a couple of Sundays. So it's been really slow, not been catching loads, but it's been nice to keep kind of that consistency of getting out still though. So I've been enjoying it actually.
Nice. Yeah, I do agree. Like the day sessions, you often move away from them because everyone kind of gets stuck in that rhythm of doing I'm going to go down on a Friday, do till Saturday, Sunday morning or whatever. And then actually you forget, even if you just got a spare couple of hours, you can still get out for a bit.
Doesn't need to be ages. When we first got into fishing, we'll probably cover this at some point in the future, but me and you spent our first 6 months to a year on a summer. If we finished work at 5, we were out from 6 till 10 doing 4 hours.
Oh, we should go. We should get back doing that.
Yeah, that was good fun. Really just on a Wednesday, we were, for example, on a school night, we'd get there at 5, 6.
We'd just take one rod down with us or something and literally just do 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So it is worthwhile. It's just, it's just a case of you get into that sort of routine. So I've been enjoying it. But how about you? How's your fishing been?
No, good. Well, obviously I've been on these same sessions as you have on the day sessions. They've been very, very nice. I did have a slightly longer session at our usual lake. What was it? Maybe 3 weeks ago now, something like that. And yeah, I had a lot of success that session. I had 3 out in a touch under 72 hours.
I've heard about this, and you had some good sized fish as well.
Good sized fish. So yeah, I was there for touch under 72. I started off with an absolute mare session. I got down on a Friday evening, and I was late out of work, and I didn't get down until it must have been about 5:30, 6 on that Friday.
It's difficult because everyone's there already.
And you often get a lot of the guys that work in just trades and that kind of stuff. They'll get down there at 3 o'clock. So the lake was rammed. There was only 2 swims free. And those swims that were free were like, the corner of the lake. They're not really the best swims. People like there's sometimes fish up there, but they tend to be the smaller ones. So yeah, like I hung around and I was like, oh, do I set up? And then I saw the guy opposite was thinking about moving, so I hung around a little bit more, went around, had a chat to him. And then he was, because he saw me turn up, he was going to cut off my swim completely. So he decided he was going to just leave anyway. He was already toying with it. So I moved around to his swim.
I like the honesty there to be like, look, I was fishing the spots in your swim. If you're going to go there, I'm just going to go home.
But that was basically it. He had 2 rods in my water, so he would have moved them. Otherwise, I just would have cast over them. So yeah, like as it turns out that he's one of the regulars down there. So he's like friends with all of like the lot that we know. Basically, we've just never met him before.
Right.
So yeah, he's like honest guy, and he was just like, yeah, I'm just going to leave if you're turning up because it's just going to be too cramped. So I jumped in his swim for one night. And nothing throughout the night whatsoever. And then Ian, good old Ian, he was in swim 4, so 2 swims up from me. And
this story isn't good for Ian, is it?
No, it's not.
No.
Sorry, Ian.
Shout out to Ian.
Yeah, shout out to Ian. It's not good for you. Yeah, he was fishing 2 swims up, and in the morning I went and had a chat to him because I saw he was packing up, and he has a particular thing for swim 1. He loves fishing swim 1.
Everyone does. I have a thing for swim 1.
It is one of the best swims on the lake.
Great producing
and
swim.
That morning it had become free, so he didn't hesitate. He was straight up going to go and move. But in the morning, whilst he was packing up, I went and had a chat with him, and it turns out he'd caught one that morning. And it was only like I think a 16, 17 pounder, if I remember correctly.
Move to move if you just caught as well. Right?
I know.
So bold. That's how desirable swim 1 is.
Well, I said that to him in the moment, that it was a risky move, but fair play. Like you feel confident where you feel confident, and I was considering kind of staying where I was. And whilst I was chatting to Ian, my left-hand rod screamed off, and I'm not miles away from my rods. I'm only maybe 15, 20 meters away, and God, I put a trot on. I got down to my swim, picked up the rod, felt the fish. But I was clearly I wasn't quick enough, and it got around to a whole bunch of reeds, and the reeds around there were really sharp, and it just snapped me off instantly. I was gutted. And after that, I was like, do I stay because I've just had a run, or do I move and jump into Ian's swim because he's just caught? And I made the decision to jump into Ian's swim. And yeah, that over the next 2 days, I ended up catching, my first catch was a 26.5 common. Then after that, later on that afternoon, I caught a 28 pound.
Brilliant fish. Yeah.
And then the following evening, I then caught a 19 pound. So I was like, result 3 fish in one session. Well. You'd be lucky to get 1 out over 3 days. And the fact that I caught 3, I was buzzing.
Yeah. See, I've been lucky enough to have 3 like on a bounce from that lake a few times, but it's super rare it happens. And not many people do it. It is like really, it's hard to get a flurry on that lake. Is super incredible. So.
No, and when the bailiff come around, Andy, he was he asked me what I'd caught, and I told him, I was like, oh, nice work. And he goes, Ian was in here before, wasn't he? And I was like, yeah, he was. And then I think he walked back round to Ian again, gave him a whole bunch of stick.
Well, he didn't catch, did he?
So, no, he ended up blanking the rest of that session. Yeah. So yeah,
but it swings and roundabouts because in theory you just caught or had a run from your swim. So, it was the right decision. So you never know, do you? But on that instance, it worked out well for you and not so much for Ian as well.
Yeah, sorry, Ian.
Glad he's been...
So yeah, it's been good. Good. Yeah, fishing has been really good. So yeah, which kind of nicely brings us onto our topic of choice.
About fishing. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought it was going to be about fishing? Do you want to enlighten us?
Yeah, what we're going to approach is, it's been a bit of an ongoing thing for me and Matt at the moment, because we've carved out some time in August, and we're also going to look to carve out some time end of September / early October to get some extended sort of fishing done, or for maybe a week or something like that. And the approach we're going to go for is a bit more of a day ticket style venue, like a booking sort of thing. And it's certainly got us thinking quite a lot about how we approach where to fish and where we're going to choose to go. Because one of the benefits of being in the UK is there is so many different venues to choose from. Some are more gate kept than others, and some you don't know about. But there's still certainly a lot of different venues that you can fish, and it's difficult to choose where to fish sometimes. So we thought it would be it's an exercise that we're going through at the moment, is sort of deciding why we're deciding to go there, the factors and the thoughts that are kind of going into it. So we thought it'd be good to kind of bring that discussion here, probably talk a bit more about what we're going to do and maybe make a decision, and then also sort of talk a bit about how we're approaching it, and then hopefully help you, come to, when you're going to decide about where you're going to fish on a day or a day ticket, or maybe sort of a bit more of an extended trip.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of kick things off, like a bit of context is we've had like a lot of kind of swings and roundabouts with how we approach our kind of membership lakes, like where we want to basically, for lack of a better phrase, is call home for like a season basically. And that won't ever stop us going out and trying new places. But like we've always had that constant battle of where we're going to go. And our local at the moment in Surrey like is perfect for that. And like I don't really see kind of that massively changing. But we're very much in a position now where, kind of, as Liam said, we're carving out like kind of a week of time to go and try something new, to try out some new places, to try and kind of broaden our horizons a little bit and see what else is out there. We fished a lot of lakes around the UK, but we want to try something a bit different. And like we don't really know, kind of exactly, what either of them, what any of these options are going to be like. But I think that's kind of part of it as well, is trying to find something that we, kind of are quite happy to sit on a lake for a week and do. So yeah, I think like probably one of the things that I would probably start with is looking at just the time you have available, because like as you touched on just then, like when we first started getting into fishing, we realistically only had 4 hours free. So we chose our venue based on having 3 or 4 hours free. And a lot of the stuff we were doing was just like small fish, runs waters and that kind of stuff, because we knew we were quite happy to catch 5, 6 to 10 pounds and every now and again a 15 pounder or whatever. Kind of that's how we tackled it back then. But then obviously with these ones now, we are carving out a week, so we've got a good time to play with.
That's it. Yeah, I think if you're going to approach a day ticket sort of or a session, first thing where you fish is how long you're fishing for, as you said. So if you're going for a couple of hours, you want somewhere you've got a chance of actually catching, right? If that's what you want, it's just a bend in the rod. However, if you're starting to progress up 24, 48 hours or a day, 24, 48, 72 a week onwards, then you can start to think a bit more about, the stock, what's in there, give yourself a bit more of a chance of going at something a bit bigger in a lower stock lake maybe, because you've got a bit more time. And then, kind of go from there really. I think the other things to consider is what you're looking to catch kind of off the back of that. That's also relevant. If you want to break a PB, you're going to need to fish a lake where there's a decent head of fish in there with a chance of breaking your PB.
Yep.
If there's only one, you might not have a choice sometimes if you've caught really big fish, but if there's only one fish in a lake that will break your PB and there's 300 fish in the lake, well, the odds aren't brilliant on just one session.
Yep.
That's something you want to make a bit more of a campaign. So thinking about, what you want to catch and why you want to go there. If you just want a bend in the rod, it doesn't matter too much. The stock is going to be super important. If a high stock lake, for the size of the venue, is going to be, a really key thing. If you're looking to break a personal best, it's got to be the amount of fish. If you've not broken 30, for example, yet, you want to try and fish a lake where there's a decent head of fish above 30, so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, I think that's like a good point, because, there's a lot of fisheries that will advertise our fish go up to 40. But actually what that means is they have one fish in there that's 40. And that doesn't mean you're going to catch a 40.
And it's only 40 before it spawns. The rest of the year, it's 38, 37, 39.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to pick a lake where, if you're trying to beat a PB, trying to pick a lake where the chances of catching a fish over that size are quite high. And that means having multiple of them. So, if you can try and find one that's got a good head of 30s, good head of 40s, well, then that's where your chances increase. But also as well, like, I think... like there's lots of lakes out there that actually are just perfectly tailored to a social. Like this is one of the things that we've covered quite a bit, is obviously we're still hunting PBs. Like, we want to continually push that mark. But, for these weeks that we've got going up, we're like quite relaxed. We're kind of just a bit like, well, what are we feeling? We kind of want to try something new, go to a new venue. We're quite used to fishing small lakes. So we want to try something that's a little bit bigger, slightly different fishing style. But it's quite Yeah, it's a challenge to try and find something that kind of ticks all the boxes.
It's a balancing act, isn't it? Because if you're somewhere for 5 days, like we've always very much treated fishing as a social opportunity. And if we can, I'll be the first to admit it, like we've certainly chosen, swims in benefit of being able to go next to each other because we're going to be there for 72 hours or a week or something like that. And it's nice to be able to chat to someone, have someone help you with your photos and things like that. Whereas if you're turning up on a fishery where you can only turn up at the day, there might only be 2 swims on opposite sides of the lakes. Then you want to think about, can you book a lake?
Yeah.
Do you have the opportunity to book 2 swims next to each other?
Yeah.
That way when you turn up, because I think there's a real, we, especially during COVID, got really burned by that. We really felt that because lakes were so busy. Our membership water you couldn't book at, and they just sort of introduced booking systems more frequently to a lot of lakes during COVID.
Yeah.
And we were turning up to our membership water, which we were paying to turn up at and often getting turned away from. And it was really frustrating.
Yeah.
And even if if there was a swim, it would only maybe be 1, sometimes 2 if you were lucky. That might become free in the evening.
Yep.
And there's a real feeling of, I don't know, you want to be excited about going to a fishing session. And if you're driving there and there's a nervousness about not being able to do it when you've got a car full of stuff, and if that's something you're worried about, then when you're thinking about when you're going to book a session and you're going to dedicate a week to it, you're going to book time off work, you're going to buy all your food, then does something, become a priority where you can book swims on a lake and you're not just going to turn up to somewhere where you can, sort of chance it as well.
Yeah, but I think you're naturally going to go to places that are closer to home in those instances, because no one wants to drive 3 hours to then be turned away because it's far too busy. But I think that's like less of a thing now that COVID's out of the way. But during COVID, it was horrific. You could turn up to a lake and be queuing to get in at 6:30, 7 in the morning.
Well, there was queues at the door, wasn't there?
Yeah, and now kind of that's all gone. But I think how we're, I guess, approaching this is obviously we want there to be a good head of 30s, because our kind of PBs is, well, yours is a touch over 30, mine's a touch under 30. Annoyingly. But like we're kind of chasing to push that barrier even further. So we want to find a lake that's got a good head of 30s in there, but equally, like, we're not treating this as a campaign. So like we're not, if we catch 30, win, but that's not why we're going. Yeah, so like we are, kind of chasing PBs, but that's not the reason why we're going. We're going because we genuinely just want to have a very chilled week fishing. We want to try and catch consistently. We want to try and, kind of we want a social. So we want to be fishing together. So yeah, kind of we're trying to tailor our lake choice to that a little bit.
Yeah, and also you got to enjoy, if you're going to spend 5 days there, it's got to be somewhat nice. You don't want it to be on a building site. You want it to, well, it depends if there's like a 40 in there, a head of 40s. I'd probably quite happily sit on a building site. But at the same time though, if it's somewhere nice, it's somewhere decent, it's somewhere enjoyable, because that's the other thing as well. As I've alluded to before, we're both in the corporate world. We both definitely use fishing as a bit of an escape to get out and get away from that, and just being out and about in the, in a nice little setting and just having some time to just sort of chill and some downtime is an important factor to me. But yeah, having somewhere that's really nice to sit for a long time is a really important part as well.
So getting into a couple of things that we've considered, like obviously recently, there's been a lot of videos around Norton Disney and all of that kind of complex of lakes. Like they look really attractive at the moment, like purely just because they're clear. They're not weedy ass lakes with, kind of just impossible to fish. They've got a good head of fish in them, ranging from sizes across their full complex. I think that would be a good option for us.
That's what we're thinking about at the moment. So we've got a few different things that we're thinking about. One of which is the Norton Disney lakes, or at least let's just kind of blanket it as the embryo lakes. The Norton Disney or the embryo lakes, maybe the Oxfordshire ones. They've got different ways that they can you can book, but that kind of brings us into point one of what we're sort of looking for. Is it definitely ticks a lot of boxes in terms of the size of the lake, the size of the fish, it looking nice and having a nice feeling to it. But we need to look into the booking aspect of it, because we think it's day ticket and it's about 3 hours for us to drive, and it's a long way to turn up to and then not be swims. So that's a big factor.
Yeah, I think the beauty of it is we're going down midweek. So when we go down, like the lake's going to be quieter anyway.
Well, fingers crossed.
So I think there's that plays to our advantage a bit. but I don't feel good about the small risk that is there, that it could be busy, and then we're like, no, you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, if there's only one swim, are we just going to sort of like rock, paper, scissors as to who gets?
And the other one
to
goes
fish for
home.
them? Yeah.
Or the other one has to sleep in their bivvy.
I was going to say, we're not going to send you home. You're just bunking up with me.
Yeah, when just not fishing.
You can sleep under my bed chair and I'll sleep above it.
Or we fish one swim with 3 rods, but the person that loses rock, paper, scissors only gets one
Gets
rod.
one. Yeah, that's a good deal. Yeah, I mean,
It's
I'd
not
do
a bad
that.
shout.
Yeah, we could all rotate it 2.5
That
days.
would be heartbreaking. I
would,
like
yeah.
picturing it now. If that had to happen, I would be fuming.
But what would be even worse is if the person who had the one rod was the one that just kept going. You've got 2 and this one is just doing really well.
Yeah, that would be rather annoying.
That's what we're
Yes.
sort of thinking about. We've never fished there. I've heard good things about it. Comments below if you fished there and you liked it.
Any advice as
yeah,
well?
advice,
Like
other
we'd
ideas.
want that too, because we've never been.
But yeah, we're keen to see what it's going to be like. It certainly ticks a lot of boxes for us. So as Matt sort of like said, for us, what's important is social aspects. It's a big lake, quite a few swims. Hopefully we can get near each other. Other point, there's a huge head of fish in there. I think in some of the ones, there's like over 1,000 fish in
that's a lot.
18, 14 acres, which is a significant amount of fish. So we're increasing the chance of catching, because to us, just catching is something you want to do. If you're there for a week, it's nice to kind of have that chance. And at the same time, there are some decent sized fish in there. So some good ones to go out as well. So for us, it's sort of ticking 4 out of 5 boxes, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's purely just the booking system that's making me nervous.
Yeah, and TBC,
Or
we
the
need to
lack
find
of
out
booking system, should I say?
yeah, what we can do. We need to look into that properly. I think we'll give them a call. That's the other thing as well about trying to find out what lakes to fish at. Do your research, and that can just be calling the fishery.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's so much research you need to do in terms of finding out what it looks like, how it fishes. Also, as Matt sort of alluded to, if you're trying to break a PB and you're trying to go for a 40 or a 30 and they say up to 30 or up to 40, like it's worth finding out when that last came out.
Or by how much?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's because if it's only one time, once per year, it's 40 pounds and 1 ounce by that geezer who measured it with a sling, and he's not actually measured it properly. And, there's a few things like that, and it's worth checking and doing your research, because it can be quite frustrating if you spend a whole week somewhere only to find out that it's not there anymore, or, the fish has died, or it isn't quite the weight you thought it was. So do that. Give the fishery a call. Find out their sort of, take on, I'm going to be here for a week. Is that, what my chances of doing well? How, how's it fishing? All these sorts of things. Just do your research. It's really key.
But also there's like the phoning them says a lot, because like I'm pretty sure we're going to end up phoning Embryo like 3 times before we actually go down there, because we've just got questions.
Us again.
Yeah, hello. But like we've phoned fisheries before, and just by the phone call we've decided not to go. And that's not because of the information they've given us, it's because of how they answer the phone. It sounds really petty, but we've had...
Well, we had one really bad experience. Do you remember?
Well, yes, this is the one I'm referring to.
Yeah.
It was horrific.
Yeah.
And we were just like, nah, we're not going down there. Like,
Well,
that's just...
for some context, Matt rang him. Was it you or me? It was
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
wasn't it? And firstly, he was told and a lot of profanities were in the call.
Yeah.
Are you calling me at this time in the morning? It was about 7, 8, I think.
It was
7, 8.
No, it was 8:30.
8:30.
Yeah.
Why are you calling me at this time? in the
Despite the
morning?
fact that on the website it said they open at 7.
Yeah,
So it's not like I
exactly.
didn't do my research.
No.
I don't just aimlessly call bailiffs at like 5 in the morning because I can.
Yeah, why the F are you calling me this time? What do you want? And it was okay, right, well, let's probably not go there then.
Yeah.
And if anything, probably good that we dodged a bullet there. So
Yeah, it was a horrific phone call. And just afterwards I was like, what? Come
Yeah.
on. I was like, you say you're open, but you're clearly not. You're just still in bed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, after that, I was like, look, you clearly are not a fisherman. You clearly don't get it. So based on that, I'm out. So yeah, we ended up going somewhere else. But yeah, like you can say it, you can tell a lot from just those phone calls. Like I phoned Embryo already. Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely phone call.
Incredible
I was
service.
super forthcoming with all the information, told me what I needed to know. Just so happens I have more questions, so I'm probably going to give my phone back.
Yeah, and that's the thing in terms of doing research. Like some lakes just aren't what they say they are. We've certainly had a couple of experiences where they promise you the world, and then you turn up and you don't have a good experience, and then you sort of think, oh, okay, I'll do some Googling online after or call them after.
Yeah.
And then you start reading all of these Facebook comments and forums, and you think, oh, I wish I'd read this before, because like it turns out it's actually not the nicest place, or it's not a great experience, or they haven't got the stock they say they have.
No, 100%. So yeah, we're considering those. The other one that you threw out the other day was Farlow's.
Yeah.
And is that Surrey as well, isn't it?
Yeah. However, though, when I was leaving the tackle shop earlier, one of them said, "Oh, well, else you end up in Farlow's if Embryo's busy," and they sort of both scoffed and was like, "Wouldn't want to be there." So now that's making me think that I don't want to go Farlow's. But I think it's just a busy lake, isn't it? It's one of those things where we spoke about this to Ben, one of the bailiffs at our local. Linear, Farlow's, places like this are just so busy. You could be zipping your bag up because you've just put something away, and you'll have a geezer pop up behind you saying, "Oh, you going, mate? You going? Can I put a bucket in your swim?" And it's constantly like that because it is just such a popular, busy lake. So again, that comes into it. What sort of experience do you want? Do you want something a bit more relaxed? Because at some of these really busy lakes, you're probably not going to get that.
No. So I think, we've got some decisions to make on where we want to go. I think the only fortunate thing about Embryo is they've got so many lakes.
So they've got about 11 odd, I think.
Yeah, so there's a good, depending on how far we want to drive, there's a good kind of selection there for us to choose from. So if one's not an option, there is going to be another one, like, semi-ish close by that, kind of is going to be a plan B if we need to.
Yeah, and the other option, if you're lucky enough, that really kind of, I guess in some cases, can tick all boxes and resolve all problems, apart from the time one, is lake exclusives. It's not really something that we've kind of dabbled in, but if you've got enough people or you go fishing with, lake exclusives, you can book a lake between 3, 4, 5, 6 of you, however many. You can get complete access to the lake for a week's time. There often can be some pretty decent fish in them. Use it as a social, and then you've got the lake and you've got the swims as well. So that's a big option to sort of consider.
Yeah, well, I think we've only really kind of dabbled in that whenever we're considering going to France or something like that. We've looked at lake exclusive, but they're available in the UK. Like, there's a couple that we know that kind of are quite good. So.
Yeah, and I think some of the Embryo ones as well. They do. It's not lake exclusive, but you can book in sets of anglers, can't you? So you can kind of guarantee like 3, 5, 10 of you or something will get swims.
Well, I think that's probably one of our kind of biggest hurdles that we're always trying to overcome is when it's like the three of us. It's kind of us two and your brother as well. Like, to find 3 swims next to each other where we're all kind of having a bit of a social and fishing,
impossible.
It's almost impossible. So we've got to either book ahead, or we've got to try and kind of wrangle our time a little bit to make sure that we are the first through the door, and that we guarantee that we can do that, and we can get those swims.
Or turn up at a weird time on like a Wednesday in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough.
There's a lot of considerations though, and I think most important ones are just to sort of identify why you're going and what you want from the session, and then just try and find a lake that suits that best. And then kind of work backwards, just because you want to try and avoid fishing. Can be expensive, and if you're going to spend a long period of time somewhere and you've not done your due diligence, you've not sort of chosen a lake, because you see it all the time. I've certainly seen it hundreds of times where you get certain anglers who, especially at our sort of club water, where our membership lake where we fish sort of often, the amount of people we see spitting feathers because it's a really tough lake and they turn up for a week and they don't catch and they don't come back, and you see them on the last day. You walk round or you'll catch them at the end of the session and they're absolutely fuming. They're livid. They're like, "Oh, I don't think there's any fish in here. I'm never coming here again." And the reality is, had you spoken to the bailiff before, had you looked online and seen that, realistically last month only 10 or 8 fish came out, maybe even less, you would have probably had your expectations set at that stage. So to avoid spending, if it's £30 or 24 hours and you're there for a week, you can be spending 150 quid odd. To avoid that and having a bad experience, looking at all these different points before can really change your experience and your outlook on the lake. So really keen to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've also got another video that coming out soon where we talk about our top 3 kind of things to look out for when you start on a new lake. And I think we'll I don't know when that's going out yet, but when it goes out, you'll see that it kind of covers some of our 3 essentials, so that when you turn up to a lake you've never fished before, it's the stuff that we do just subconsciously. It just happens because we know that we need to gather information before we even stick a rod in the water, because the difference between knowing, kind of actually across the entire lake there's a foot's worth of weed that you just can't see, but you've not bothered to lead about and actually find it, is essential information, and it is the difference between you catching and not catching. So it has to happen. But yeah, like, surprising how many people just don't do that. They just turn up and fish and expect to catch from just, pub chucking it out to the middle and hoping for the best.
And some people do, and then they'll recommend it to their friend, and they turn up and realise that it's not actually quite how they've been, had it described to them, and then it can completely put you off a otherwise brilliant lake. Yep. So yeah, research, identify you want to be there, and that's some of the things that we're thinking about, and we'll sort of keep everyone posted. So yeah, that concludes, I think, that topic bit pretty nicely. And there is one thing I was pretty keen to kind of talk on. We managed to get out on the weekend, and we did some stand-up paddleboarding.
Oh,
which at first...
I totally forgot about that. We did.
Well, at first you might be thinking, Liam, why is stand-up paddleboarding relevant to the fishing channel? Well, let me tell you. Wait no longer. It's a fishing lake, and it's super clear, and I happen to have a free diving mask and fins, and we've got a camera and things like that, and Matt's got a mask as well, and we managed to, in the lake, there's a couple of little areas where we could, reserve sort of areas, where jumped off the paddle boards, put the mask and fins on, and we lived amongst the carp.
Yeah.
Swam around for a bit.
Yeah.
It was good insight.
It was pretty surreal, I have to say. It's by far one of the clearest lakes I've seen. I mean, whilst we're talking, I'll put, obviously, those that are listening on Spotify, iTunes, and all those other platforms, then you won't see this, hear this, but you watching on YouTube, you will see this. All of these shots, like, were all taken, like, by us, by you, swimming underwater with a bit of me hanging off my paddleboard. I was just too scared to get in the water. I'm joking, I wasn't scared. I was just quite happy doing my thing. A little bit scared. I just a little bit scared. But yeah, like, the water was just ridiculously clear. I've never seen a lake that's like, you could see a good 3-4 meters in front of you. Like,
and some, I think.
It was really, really good. But I think we'll move on to kind of seeing some of the fish in a sec. But the boogiest thing was literally like,
the underwater trees.
The trees, and like, you go into the reserve area and like, you're just looking down, and you'll look down and all of a sudden something will catch your eye, and then when you focus on it, you realise there is an oak tree that is the width of a car, that has been there for hundreds of years, that is just submerged in about 15 metres.
Yeah, I was swimming around them, in and around.
And it was spooky. It was like a ghost forest underneath the water.
It was cool.
I mean, it was really cool. Yeah. But my knees went a little bit.
I love that sort of stuff, which is why I was swimming around underneath the branches and whatnot. But it was cool to see the fish. They were not scared of me at all. They were just coming right up to me. Some big old fish as well. Like,
it was like 20 plus mid-20s, yeah.
And there's up to 40 in this lake as well. So it would have been really cool to see a 40 swim by.
Yeah.
But yeah, some monsters, maybe even close. There was one which was upper 20s, which we called shoulders. But really interesting. And what was interesting, a couple of key kind of cool takeaways, is there were definitely the same fish swimming around the same area for quite a long time. And they kept coming back to the same spot.
Yeah.
So they are definitely habitual. And we've seen that in the underwater sort of series and stuff recently, where the same fish keep coming back to the same spots.
Yep.
So I think there's definitely something there, in the sense that, if a fish has been caught from a certain swim or known location and known captures, I think there's a pretty good chance that it's going to go back to that spot.
It's going to go back there at some point. No, 100%. I think the craziest thing for me was, like, I was on the paddleboard, and when the fish were coming up to kind of the area, I was sticking the camera back in the water again, and I was following them around and that kind of stuff. But when I was doing that, they were a lot more skittish. Like, they saw the paddleboard, they saw me, and they wouldn't come as close. When you were in the water, they were swimming alongside you. They were quite happy to just, you be at one with the carp.
Yeah, I was a carp.
Yeah, you were a carp. For all intents and purposes, you were just a big carp to them.
They loved it.
And it was really strange. I was expecting them to be quite, like, as soon as you got in the water, they were all off. But not that at all.
Like, they were quite inquisitive, weren't they?
Yeah, no, they're really inquisitive, especially shoulders. Like, he just kept coming back round again and just kept being like, "What are you doing, eh?
We're boys." Yeah. Yeah, it'd be really cool to, like, catch it one day. Have seen it in the water and then go and catch it.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, it was a wicked experience though. And then we actually took it one step further. we'd actually sort of taken some braid, about 200 metre odd of braid out of the lake,
Yeah.
which was just free, sort of like going between the trees
Yeah, it
and
was like
stuff.
a good 100 yards of it or something.
And but how we'd done that is we got some scissors from a fisherman on the bankside. And when we'd returned it, he sort of said, "Oh, is there many in the reserve?" And we got chatting to him, and it's quite a difficult lake to fish. But I ended up jumping off the board and diving down and telling him where a couple of clear spots were.
Yeah.
So
well, it's a really, really weedy lake,
Yeah.
and it's like you're talking clear spots of like a dustbin lid. So to find them, is hard to lead for as well. So yeah, like I think you found that quite useful. It was like a nice little service. We should have charged him.
Yeah,
That was a nice little service.
in the future, if we get on that lake, catch me. Paddleboard, mask, fins. I'm going out and I'm finding all the spots.
Literally,
Done the water myself.
moving forward, we're taking paddleboards and wetsuits with us because we're not casting. Like we're swimming the spots out.
Yeah, I'll just swimming out.
Drop it down, present it nicely.
Yeah, forget the bait boat. Me, I'm going out.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the spot.
Liam is the bait boat.
Yeah. It might get a bit cold and wet, but
Yeah.
it was a good experience. And I think there was a few little learnings from it. And maybe something for the future to think about how we find spots and whatnot. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of cool sort of takeaways and learnings and things like that, and things to think about next time we can fish a lake where you can get in the water. Of course, like there will be a lot of lakes where you just can't. So
we don't recommend that on lakes. No. It's quite clearly not allowed, so don't do that.
Yeah, on this lake you specifically can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. That sort of wraps us up. As always, thank you very much for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you haven't checked out any of our previous videos, please do. Last episode we discuss sort of in depth, speaking of underwater, the recently released Underwater at Norton Disney by Corda and the Thinking Tackle lot, and we go through some pretty cool topics there. But yeah, thank you for liking, commenting and subscribing, and we will sort of catch you on the next one. So until then, catch you later.